Go sit somewhere else. This table's only for family, not for the adopted, Sophia's voice echoed through Belmont's lavish dining room, a top-notch spot in Seattle. Laughter erupted like wildfire as my parents, my brother Samuel, and Sophia's husband burst into fits of chuckles, as though she'd just cracked the best joke imaginable. There I stood, clutching my purse tightly, cheeks aflame with embarrassment while curious diners stole glances at me. The chandeliers glittered above, throwing warm glows on the pristine white linens and sparkling crystal goblets, yet I felt an unsettling chill creeping in. I'm Julia, 29 years old, and I've been part of this family for 22 years, having been adopted at 5. That's a whopping 22 years of being constantly reminded that I didn't truly belong, that I was somehow lesser. The one person who ever made me feel valued was my grandma Dorothy, my adoptive mother's mom, who sat at the end of the table, her face a tapestry of emotions. Sophia, that's enough, I murmured, trying to salvage at least a little dignity. Oh, don't take it so hard, my mother Patricia chimed in, her perfectly manicured hand waving dismissively. It's all in good fun. You know Sophia. I was all too aware of what Sophia was like. At 32, she had mastered the skill of belittling me while maintaining the pretense of a harmonious family. Growing up, she enjoyed the best bedroom, the latest fashion, and a prestigious college education while I made do with hand-me-downs and community college. Her mediocre achievements were celebrated, while my spectrum of excellence drew nothing but criticism. Sit down, Julia, my father Gregory commanded, clearly annoyed. You're attracting attention. I obeyed, swallowing the retort building up in my throat. This dinner was meant to celebrate Sophia's latest business triumph, a real estate investment my parents had backed. They were always there to support Sophia. In stark contrast, when I had asked for a loan to launch my graphic design business 3 years prior, they just laughed, telling me to be realistic. The evening dragged on, conversations swirling around me as if I were invisible. Sophia reveled in showing off her new Mercedes, while Samuel bragged about his promotion at the bank. My parents radiated pride, firing questions, and handing out congratulations. When I attempted to share that I had landed a major client, a $50,000 contract, my mother cut in sharply, "That's nice, dear. Samuel, tell us about your bonus." By dessert time, I had retreated within myself, the familiar numbness settling in. I knew exactly what role I played in this family, the outsider, the charity case, the lingering reminder of what they could feel good about. Just then, the waiter came over with the check. My heart sank as he placed the leather folder directly in front of me. Confused, I looked at it and asked, "What's this?" Sophia's laughter rang out, bright yet piercing. "Oh, didn't we tell you? You're covering this dinner. Think of it as your contribution since you're always taking and never giving." Taking? The word got stuck in my throat. "I've never asked for anything from you." Patricia began listing off, the roof over your head, the food, the clothes. I couldn't keep up with her. "We've provided everything, Julia. The least you can do is treat us tonight." My hands shook as I opened the folder. The total made my vision swim, $3,290. They had indulged in the priciest wines, multiple appetizers, gourmet steaks, and even lobster tails. Samuel had added 3 desserts, just for kicks. "I can't afford this, asterisk, I murmured. "Of course, you can," Sophia replied sweetly. "Didn't you just mention a big client worth $50,000? This meal is just pocket change for you now." But the reality was that the $50,000 would stretch over 6 months of hard work, with most of it earmarked for business expenses, rent, and paying off the student loans they refused to assist with. This one dinner could wipe out my savings entirely. But I wouldn't give them more to shame me with. With trembling fingers, I retrieved my credit card and slipped it into the folder. The waiter whisked it away, and I forced a smile, sipped water, and pretended everything was all right. Sophia was already chatting about their upcoming vacation to Tuscany, with my parents ready to tag along. Not once did they think to invite me. They never did. When the waiter returned with my card and receipt, I signed it with numb fingers. $3,290 for the chance to be humiliated by those who should cherish me. Well, that was delightful, Patricia remarked, wiping her lips with her napkin. Same time next month. A chilling realization hit me, they wanted this to become routine. As I opened my mouth to voice my dissent, an unexpected voice pierced through the chatter. Just a moment, please. Silence fell like a blanket. Grandma Dorothy, who had been quiet throughout the dinner, stood tall at her end of the table. At 78, she still demanded attention, her silver hair impeccably styled and her posture unwavering. Something in her expression caused my heart to constrict. The atmosphere in the restaurant became tense. Grandma Dorothy had always stood apart from the rest of our family. Unlike my parents and siblings, who often made me feel like a burden, she was the one who attended my school performances, remembered my birthday, and cared about my aspirations. She was also the richest individual I had ever met, a self-made billionaire who had constructed an immense pharmaceutical empire from the ground up. However, lately, she appeared more contemplative and observant, studying family gatherings with a focused intensity that left me curious about her thoughts. Mother, what's going on? Patricia inquired, her annoyance evident. We were just about to leave. Everyone, sit down. Grandma Dorothy's voice held an authority that made my father straighten up. I have something to discuss, and you all will listen. Sophia rolled her eyes but remained in her seat. Samuel discreetly checked his phone beneath the table, while my parents exchanged puzzled looks. Grandma Dorothy's gaze swept over each of them before finally settling on me. A flicker of something, perhaps sadness or disappointment, shimmered in her eyes. I've observed this family for many years, she began, her tone steady yet cold, especially the way you treat Julia, how she's always been treated. Mother, come on, protested Patricia. This isn't the appropriate moment. Quiet. The sharpness of her command made my mother fall silent. At 78, I've devoted months pondering my legacy, what should happen to my fortune when I'm gone. The table fell into an eerie stillness. The sound of my father's fork clattering against his plate as he placed it down echoed. Sophia's smug grin flickered. As per my current will, we all know the situation. The majority of my estate is designated for Patricia, then shared among the grandchildren. I observed the eagerness that lit up Sophia's face. She had long anticipated that inheritance, devising elaborate plans and investments based on money she hadn't even received yet. But I've instructed my lawyer to draft a new will, Grandma Dorothy revealed, pulling out an envelope from her purse. Signed and notarized just yesterday. The silence became stifling. You can't be serious, Samuel exclaimed. You're changing your will. For what? A childish prank? A prank? Grandma Dorothy's laugh was tinged with bitterness. I've witnessed you all mock and demean Julia for over 20 years. I've seen you exclude her, humiliate her, treat her as if she's beneath you. And tonight, you made her bear the brunt of your excess while laughing about it. We were just having a little fun, Sophia protested weakly. Fun? Grandma Dorothy spat out the word like it was distasteful. Do you consider cruelty to be enjoyable? Do you really see making someone feel worthless as entertainment? My heart raced so intensely I feared everyone could hear it. Grandma Dorothy moved gracefully around the table until she stood beside me, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. Julia is the only one in this family who has demonstrated real character, she declared. She has built everything she possesses from scratch without any support from any of you. She is kind, talented, and resilient despite your constant attempts to undermine her spirit. Mother, are you being overdramatic? Gregory asked, but his tone lacked certainty. Am I? Grandma Dorothy raised her eyebrows. Patricia, when was the last time you inquired about Julia's life? Not just asked, but actually listened to her response? My mother opened and closed her mouth without words. Samuel, have you ever offered congratulations to your sister for her achievements? Have you ever acknowledged her success? My brother stared down at his plate. Sophia, have you spent even a single day treating Julia as family instead of as a servant? My sister's face turned crimson with a mix of rage and embarrassment. Grandma Dorothy looked around at them, her disappointment palpable. You all have failed spectacularly. You offered love and support to a little girl who had lost everything, and instead of nurturing her, you've spent 22 years making her pay for the kindness you never genuinely provided. The weight of her words enveloped the table like a heavy fog. Other diners had stopped pretending to be oblivious. The waitstaff lingered nearby, sensing the tension. So, here's what's going down, Grandma Dorothy asserted, her voice gaining momentum. My entire estate, every single dollar, every property, every investment is going to Julia. The shock was immediate. What? Sophia yelled, jumping up from her chair. You can't do that. That's so unfair. Samuel slammed his hand onto the table. Mother, consider what you're saying. Patricia implored. We're talking about billions here. Julia isn't even really family. Enough. Grandma Dorothy's command again silenced the chaos. Julia is more of a family member than any of you have ever been. She has deserved this not through blood, but through her character, through being a better person than all of you combined. I remained motionless, struggling to comprehend the magnitude of what was unfolding. Billions of dollars. Grandma Dorothy's entire fortune. It felt utterly implausible, surreal, and far too massive to really grasp. You're being used, Gregory exclaimed with urgency. Julia must have done something. Grandma Dorothy interrupted him decisively, stating, Tonight, that stops now. She quickly retrieved her phone and placed a call. Thomas, it's Dorothy. Yes, initiate the new will right away. Ensure it's foolproof and get the trust documents ready for Julia. The reactions from my family varied from shock to outrage and incredulity. Sophia looked as if she might actually faint. Samuel's face turned a deep shade of purple. My parents appeared to age 10 years in an instant. This isn't finished. Sophia spat at me. We'll dispute it. We'll battle you in court. Go ahead, Grandma Dorothy replied with unshaken calm. Everything is completely lawful, and I'm of sound mind, as confirmed by a medical evaluation I had this morning. She had orchestrated this every step of the way. The fallout was unlike anything I had ever seen. Sophia lunged at me across the table, her face twisted in fury. Samuel seized her arm, yet his own frustration was barely contained. My parents sat entranced in shocked silence as their carefully built world began to collapse. You cunning little liar. Sophia sneered at me. You orchestrated this. You've been pretending to be the victim the whole time. That's enough, Grandma Dorothy interjected. Julia has done nothing wrong. She wasn't even aware of this until now. I felt the truth hit me. I was still processing everything, my mind unable to fully assimilate the events. Billions of dollars. The entirety of Grandma Dorothy's estate. Everything she had painstakingly built throughout her life. Why are you doing this? Patricia's voice broke, tears tracing her cheeks. I'm your daughter, your blood. You should be ashamed of your behavior, Grandma Dorothy responded, her voice soft but resolute. I gave you every possible advantage in life, education, opportunities, love, but what did you learn? Nothing about compassion or kindness. All you did was pass down your spite to your children. Gregory attempted a different tactic. Let's be sensible, we can resolve this. Perhaps split the estate? There is no resolution to be had, Grandma Dorothy stated firmly. The choice has been made. My lawyers have everything set. The trust is established. Julia will inherit everything upon my passing, with immediate access to certain accounts starting tomorrow. Tomorrow? The word echoed ominously in the air. This was no distant promise. This was actual, immediate, unfolding right before us. Samuel leaned in, his voice low and menacing. You're making a monumental mistake. Julia won't manage that kind of money, she'll squander it in a year. Julia built a thriving business from nothing, Grandma Dorothy interrupted. At 29, she's more responsible with finances than any of you ever have been since you never supported her. I found myself faltering, my thoughts a jumble. Grandma, I don't understand. Why now? Her gaze softened as she turned to me. Because I've watched you endure enough pain, my dear. I'm dying. The world around me shifted. What? I managed to whisper. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. I have maybe 6 months, probably less. She said it so calmly, yet I could see the anguish lurking beneath her composure. I discovered this 3 months ago and have been arranging my affairs to ensure my legacy goes to someone worthy. Tears blurred my vision. Grandma Dorothy was fading away. The one person who had wholly loved me was leaving. Oh, don't cry, Julia, she said as she embraced me, allowing me to inhale her familiar scent of lilac and vanilla. This is not a tragedy, this is justice. The restaurant had gone completely quiet. Even the sounds from the kitchen had ceased. Everyone was observing this family fracture in real time. You can't truly mean this, Patricia attempted once more, desperation making her voice shrill. Mother, think of your grandchildren. Consider the family legacy. I am considering it, Grandma Dorothy replied. That's exactly why I'm doing this. The family legacy must reflect compassion, hard work, and integrity. Julia embodies all those qualities. The rest of you display greed, cruelty, and entitlement. Sophia's hands trembled with rage. We'll sue. We'll prove you're unfit to make these decisions. Good luck with that, Grandma Dorothy's smile was sharp. I have medical documents, psychological assessments, and corroboration from many witnesses regarding your treatment of Julia for years. My lawyer has meticulously kept track of everything. She had strategically constructed this plan while her own time was dwindling. I want to go home, I whispered. Absolutely, Grandma Dorothy reassured me, keeping her arm around my shoulders. Thomas is waiting outside with the car. He'll drive us to my place. We have so much to talk about. As we made to leave, Samuel obstructed our path. This isn't fair. She's not truly one of us. Step aside, Grandma Dorothy's voice was ice cold. Or I will have security remove you. He moved aside, yet the disdain in his eyes made me recoil. As we made our way through the restaurant, a hush fell, with every gaze directed at us. The crisp Seattle breeze greeted my face as we exited, and I inhaled deeply, striving to calm my racing thoughts. A sleek black vehicle awaited us at the curb. Thomas, who has been Grandma Dorothy's driver for 30 years, opened the door, a knowing smile lighting up his face. Welcome, Miss Julia. Thomas knows everything, Grandma Dorothy remarked as we slid into the back seat. He's been assisting me in planning this for weeks. The car pulled away from the restaurant, leaving my family, my old family, standing on the sidewalk, utterly astounded. Through the rear window, I caught sight of Sophia, her face contorted with fury as she screamed something, while Samuel was busy on his phone, likely calling a lawyer. My parents stayed together, looking utterly lost and shattered. I expected to feel something, maybe guilt or fear, but all I experienced was a numbing fatigue blended with an odd sensation of liberation. Are you really dying? I quietly asked Grandma Dorothy. Yes, she replied. She took my hand, her skin felt like paper, yet her grip was surprisingly firm. But I'm not scared. I've had a full life, Julia. I built an empire, raised a family, and made my mark. Now, I want to ensure everything I've worked for goes to someone deserving. I don't think I can do this, I confessed. I'm clueless about being rich or running your companies. You'll figure it out, she stated confidently. You're intelligent, diligent, and have great instincts. Plus, you'll have a wonderful team to support you. I've ensured that. The city lights whizzed by as we drove toward her estate in Madison Park. "What's next?" I queried. "Now?" Grandma Dorothy tightened her grip on my hand. "Now, we prepare you for your new journey, and we make sure your family can never harm you again." The following morning, I woke up in one of Grandma Dorothy's guest rooms, momentarily disoriented by the luxurious silk sheets and the panoramic view of Lake Washington through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Then the memories flooded back, the restaurant, the bill, the announcement, everything. My phone had been buzzing incessantly since I turned it back on, a staggering 43 missed calls from Sophia, 29 from my mother, 16 from Samuel, and numerous texts ranging from pleas to threats. I scrolled through them with a curious detachment. "You're being selfish. Think about the family. Patricia, I'll ruin you in court. You won't see a dime. Sophia, we need to discuss this. It can be fixed. Gregory. Grandma isn't thinking clearly. Help us get her assessed," Samuel chimed in. Setting the phone aside, I approached the window. Grandma Dorothy's estate sprawled across 3 acres of prime Seattle land, the morning sun sparkling on the lake, with sailboats already gracing the water. This was now mine, or would be soon. A gentle knock interrupted my thoughts. "Miss Julia, breakfast is served, and Miss Dorothy would like to see you in the study." I walked in to find Grandma Dorothy seated behind a grand mahogany desk, looking surprisingly vibrant despite the news of her health from yesterday. Thomas stood nearby, while a distinguished man in a tailored suit sat opposite her. "Julia, this is Walter, my attorney," Grandma Dorothy introduced. "We need to go over some important matters." Walter rose and shook my hand firmly. "Miss Julia, it's a pleasure. Your grandmother has very high regard for you." I took a seat, feeling as if I were in a surreal dream. Walter opened a leather portfolio and began detailing the trust, the companies, and the investments in front of me. Impressive numbers that felt surreal danced before my eyes: $3 billion in liquid assets, $5 billion in properties and investments, stakes in pharmaceutical firms, real estate developments, technology startups. "The immediate access accounts activate today," Walter informed me. "You'll have $5 million at your disposal while the trust is being finalized. Your grandmother wanted to ensure you had immediate resources." The figure left me dizzy. "There's more," Grandma Dorothy interjected, her gaze intense. "Your family will undoubtedly contest this. They'll argue undue influence, diminished capacity, anything they can conjure. We must be ready." "What can they really do?" I inquired. Walter leaned in. "Legally, not much. Miss Dorothy possesses documentation proving her sound mind, including assessments from 3 independent doctors. The will is solid. However, they could complicate matters, dragging it out in court and generating negative publicity." "Let them try," Grandma Dorothy retorted resolutely. "I've been documenting their treatment of Julia for years, every cruel word, every act of exclusion, every instance of financial abuse. If they want a court fight, I'll inundate them with evidence." Just then, my phone buzzed again. "Sophia." I silenced it immediately. "There's something else I need to share with you," Grandma Dorothy continued, her tone making me tense. "Your adoption wasn't exactly as you believe it to be." The room seemed to tilt at her words. "What do you mean?" She slid a folder across her desk toward me. "When Patricia and Gregory decided to adopt you, they received an impressive amount of money, a total of $750,000. This money was intended to cover everything you needed during your upbringing, including care and education." I gazed at the documents inside the folder: bank statements, transfer records. "They got paid to adopt me?" Grandma Dorothy confirmed that it came from a trust established by your birth parents. "Tragically, they died in a car crash when you were just 5 years old, and the trust was created to ensure you were properly cared for. Patricia and Gregory were approved as your adoptive parents and granted access to those funds." As I flipped through the papers, my hands trembled. $750,000. Yet, I found myself in second-hand clothes, attending community college with student loans, and being told the family couldn't assist me. They drained it all, I murmured, eyeing the account statements that revealed spending frivolously on vacations, vehicles, tuition for Sophia's private schooling, and Samuel's college fund. They splurged my money on everyone except me. Yes, Grandma Dorothy said softly. I only unearthed this information 2 years ago. Since then, I've been diligently gathering evidence. That's theft, Julia. They robbed a child. The sense of betrayal pierced me deeper than any prior hurt. It wasn't merely cruelty or favoritism, they'd capitalized on my loss, misusing funds meant for my betterment to indulge their biological children, while treating me like excess baggage. Why didn't you share this sooner? I inquired. Because I needed to ensure everything was airtight, legally sound, she paused, appearing visibly older. And because I realized that once you uncovered the truth, there would be no turning back. Your link with them, toxic as it has been, would be irreparably severed. She was absolutely right. Every small hope I had for reconciliation, every thought that I might have been too sensitive or ungrateful, extinguished in that second. They weren't just cruel, they were criminals. What should I do? I felt adrift and overwhelmed. Allow me to manage this, Grandma Dorothy reassured me. Walter has already initiated a civil lawsuit against Patricia and Gregory for mishandling the trust funds. With interest accrued over 22 years, they owe you around $2.3 million. Just then, my phone erupted with incoming calls again. This time, it was my father. Answer it, Grandma Dorothy urged. Put it on speaker. Let's see what he has to say. My hands shook as I accepted the call. Julia, Gregory's voice was laced with desperation. Julia, please, we need to discuss this. Your grandmother isn't thinking straight. She seems perfectly clear to me, I replied, my voice stronger than I felt. This is outrageous. You can't genuinely believe you deserve her entire fortune. You've been with us for 22 years, and now you turn on us the instant money is involved? The instant money is involved, I echoed. You mean like the $750,000 you pocketed for adopting me? Funds you squandered on everyone else but me? A heavy silence followed. I don't know what lies she's been feeding you, he stuttered. Bank records don't lie, Dad, I shot back, the word bitter on my tongue. Walter has all the evidence. You stole from me. Both of you did. Patricia's voice screeched through the phone, panic evident. That money was meant for your upbringing, for your housing and nourishment. You gave me hand-me-downs, I financed my own college education. I countered. Meanwhile, Sophia was pampered with designer outfits and a full scholarship to a private university, and Samuel got a brand new car at 16. I received nothing at all. You're being ungrateful, Gregory snapped. We provided you a home. You gave me a prison. I declared. The words felt potent, liberating. You made me feel worthless every single day, and you did it while squandering funds allocated for me. We'll contest this in court, Patricia threatened. By all means. Grandma Dorothy interjected. I'd relish the opportunity to see you explain the financial records to a judge. Justifying how you misallocated money meant for a grieving 5-year-old on luxurious vacations. The call ended abruptly as they hung up, likely to contact their attorney. I sensed Walter's comforting hand on my shoulder. Miss Julia, I know this is a lot to digest, but you need to realize one thing, you hold all the cards here. They have no valid legal standing. They'll still attempt to fight it, I replied. Of course they will, Grandma Dorothy concurred. But they'll lose. Once they do, you'll finally be free from them. 3 days later, the media caught wind of the story. Somehow, and I suspected Sophia played a role in it, details about Grandma Dorothy's will alterations leaked to the press. Headlines screamed, billionaire disinherits family for adopted granddaughter. My phone rang incessantly with reporters seeking my comments. I had temporarily moved into Grandma Dorothy's estate, unable to return to my apartment where my family knew my whereabouts. Thomas had gathered my belongings, leaving me living in an odd blend of luxury and chaos. Public sentiment was split. Some lauded Grandma Dorothy for valuing character over blood, while others branded me a manipulative gold digger who seduced an elderly woman for her fortune. The comment sections were merciless, accusing me of having ulterior motives with remarks like, "She must have been sleeping with the old woman's lawyer or something." Warning, gold digger alert. This girl totally knew her game plan. Kudos to Dorothy. Family is defined by actions, not just blood relations. That adopted girl is set to blow through billions in no time, mark my words. I tried to brush it off, but those words dug deep under my skin. Was I wrong to accept Grandma Dorothy's gift? Should I have said no? Stop reading those, Grandma Dorothy exclaimed, spotting me hunched over my laptop in the library. She seemed more fragile than before. Her cancer was clearly worsening. People will always voice their opinions. Let them chatter on. They're calling me terrible things, I replied. When I launched my first company, they said awful things about me too, she reassured, settling in the chair next to mine. They thought I was too aggressive, too masculine, too ambitious. They claimed a woman couldn't possibly thrive in pharmaceuticals. But I proved them all wrong. She held my hand, her grip feebler than before. You'll show them wrong as well, Julia. Not by defending yourself, but by staying true to who you are, kind, diligent, and principled. Later that afternoon, Walter arrived with startling news. Patricia and Gregory have officially moved to contest the will, alleging diminished capacity and undue influence. Let me see those, Grandma Dorothy insisted as Walter handed her the legal papers. I leaned over her shoulder, my anger mounting with each line I read. They were accusing me of isolating Grandma Dorothy from her family, that I manipulated a sick elderly woman as if I took advantage of her declining mental abilities. This is absurd, I exclaimed. I only found out about the cancer that night. We have proof otherwise, Walter reassured me, including statements from medical staff, friends, and business associates. They're just grasping at straws. However, something in his demeanor unnerved me. What else aren't you telling me? He exchanged a serious glance with Grandma Dorothy. Sophia has brought on a private investigator. They're digging into your background for anything they can exploit against you. My stomach dropped. There's nothing there, Grandma Dorothy affirmed. But they'll attempt to fabricate something. Twist innocent occurrences and distort the reality. Just then, my phone buzzed with an unknown caller. Against my better judgment, I answered, Julia, what a pleasure to finally connect. The voice was syrupy sweet yet unfamiliar. I'm Jennifer Cole from Seattle Scene Magazine. I'd love to discuss your relationship with Dorothy. No comment, I stated, ready to hang up. Wait. I just have a few questions regarding the allegations. What allegations regarding my business? I snapped back. There are concerns about your startup capital origins. Some are suggesting Dorothy financed it years ago, implying you've been plotting this takeover for a long time. My heart raced cold. That's not accurate. I built my business with my funds. Can you prove that? Do you have documentation? I hung up, trembling hands and all. They're attempting to craft a narrative, Walter said darkly, implying you've been grooming Dorothy for years, suggesting everything you've achieved was actually from her funds. But that wasn't the case. I have loan papers, business records. I insisted. Grandma Dorothy comforted me. We know, we will establish that. But Julia, brace yourself. Things are going to worsen before they improve. She was right. By evening, social media buzzed with wild theories. Anonymously, likely from my family, accounts spread falsehoods that I'd flunked out of community college, I graduated with honors, and that my business was floundering, it's thriving. They even claimed I'd had multiple affairs with wealthy older men, despite barely dating for years. The cruelest lie was that I somehow caused my birth parents' deaths to access their trust fund. I was only 5 when they passed. Facts couldn't reach the minds of internet trolls. I closed my laptop, feeling nauseated. Miss Julia. Thomas appeared at the library door. There are reporters waiting at the gate, quite a crowd. I walked to the window, overlooking the estate front. News vans filled the street, cameras aimed at our house. My private life turned into a public circus. This is what they want, I murmured. They want me to break, to act in a way that paints me poorly. Then deny them the joy of that. Grandma Dorothy commanded, her weariness evident, yet her gaze remained fierce. We tackle this head-on, through truth, evidence, and dignity. That night, sleep eluded me. I replayed childhood memories, Patricia reminding me how lucky I was to be taken in, Sophia laughing when I wasn't invited to her birthday party, Samuel shoving me into the pool at a family gathering, while others laughed. All those exclusionary moments and casual cruelties crescendoed to this point. Around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. We will destroy you. V. Sophia was threatening me from a burner phone. I quickly took a screenshot and forwarded it to Walter as proof. Grandma Dorothy had taught me well. The next morning brought even more unexpected news. Somehow, Samuel managed to charm his way past security at the estate, and I found him in the foyer deep in a heated discussion with Thomas. I need to see Julia. Please, it's crucial, he insisted. I reassured Thomas, though my heart was pounding in my chest. I'll handle this. Samuel looked utterly disheveled, unshaven, clothes a wrinkled mess, and dark shadows under his eyes. He was a far cry from the polished banker I once knew. Julia, we need to fix this. The family is unraveling, he implored. The family has been broken for ages, I shot back. You're only noticing now because money is at stake. That's so unfair. We weren't always kind to you, I know, but this? He gestured broadly around the estate, as if to highlight our exclusion. That's too extreme. Too extreme? I couldn't keep my voice in check. You pushed me into a pool when I was 12, and I nearly drowned because I didn't know how to swim. Nobody taught me to swim, that was for real families. Sophia spread lies at school saying I was adopted because my biological parents didn't want me. My mom forgot my birthday 3 consecutive years. Dad told me I should be grateful for the scraps given to me. You all squandered $750,000 that was meant for me while I struggled with 3 jobs to pay for community college. Samuel's face paled. I had no idea about that money, he exclaimed. You swore you didn't know because you never cared to ask. None of you ever cared about my life, about how I felt. Years of bottled pain burst forth. You want to repair the family? There's nothing left to fix. It was shattered from the very beginning. Julia, please leave, I said, my voice now steady, almost icy. Get out of this house and don't return. You're making a grave mistake, Samuel protested, but his voice lacked any real conviction. When Grandma's gone, you'll have no one, he added. I replied, I've already been alone, at least now I'll have the means to create a real life for myself. Thomas led Samuel outside. I watched through the window as my brother walked to his car with slumped shoulders. For just an instant, I felt a flicker of something, neither guilt nor pity, but a bittersweet acknowledgement of what might have been if they had chosen differently. Later that afternoon, Walter called for an urgent meeting, his expression serious. Sophia's legal team claims to have found something, he announced. They allege you forged documents regarding your business, especially contracts with clients. They're attempting to portray you as dishonest, someone who could manipulate Dorothy. That's outrageous. I exclaimed, all my contracts are completely legitimate. We know that, but they're filing for a motion to delay the will proceedings for an investigation. It's a strategy to buy time, and it may just work, he explained. Grandma Dorothy slammed her hand on the desk, shocking us both. Despite her frailty, her anger infused her with energy. Absolutely not. Walter, file an emergency motion to expedite this. We need this settled before, she trailed off. Before she dies, I whispered, pained. Dorothy, you need to rest, Walter started. I'll rest after this is finished, she retorted sharply. My granddaughter is being targeted by vultures pretending to be family. We're ending this now. Walter nodded and stepped away to make the necessary calls. Grandma Dorothy turned her fierce gaze back to me. Julia, I need your help with something. Anything for you, I replied. I'm holding a press conference tomorrow to tell the entire truth about the stolen money, the abuse, everything. You need to be there. The public needs to hear your side directly, she insisted. Fear enveloped me. I can't. What if I say the wrong thing? You'll be amazing, she stated firmly. Just speak the truth, that's all you need to do. That night, sleep eluded me once more as I practiced what I might say, only to discard it repeatedly. How could I summarize 22 years of suffering in mere minutes? How could I convey my story to strangers? The press conference was set for 2 p.m. at Grandma Dorothy's downtown office. As Thomas drove us there, the media presence was staggering, cameras everywhere, reporters hurling questions, a throng of bystanders recording every moment on their phones. Walter had prepared a statement, but when I glanced at Grandma Dorothy, truly looked at her, I could see how drastically this was costing her. She was fighting for me, summoning her last reserves of strength. The conference room teemed with people, cameras rolling, lights glaring, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Beside me, Grandma Dorothy was seated at the long table with Walter on her other side. Despite her small stature, she seemed indomitable. Thank you all for being here, she began, her voice unexpectedly firm. I am here to confront the rumors and accusations surrounding my will and my granddaughter, Julia. She laid everything bare, the documented abuse, the misappropriated trust fund money, years of emotional and financial manipulation. She presented bank records, medical evaluations that confirmed her mental clarity, and testimonials from witnesses. It was thorough, heartbreaking, and undeniable. Grandma Dorothy said, glancing around the room, some have claimed that Julia influenced me. However, the reality is quite the opposite. My biological family exploited her instead. They took a grieving child of just 5 years old and turned her into a target for their own failures. They robbed her, belittled her, and crushed her self-worth. Yet, despite these hardships, Julia fashioned a life for herself, achieving success in business. She blossomed into a kind, compassionate, and diligent person, embodying everything they failed to be. Then she motioned toward me. Julia would like to share a few thoughts. My heart raced. All eyes were on me, filling me with judgment, curiosity, and doubt. Clearing my throat, I spoke. I was unsure of what else to add that my grandmother hadn't already covered. This spotlight was never what I desired. I never craved riches, fame, or entanglements in court disputes. Gaining confidence, I continued, I only wanted a loving family. I yearned for parents who cared about my well-being, siblings who cheered for my achievements rather than mocked them. I craved a sense of belonging. Looking straight at the cameras, I knew some of you perceive me as a gold digger, thinking I manipulated a dying woman for wealth, but I remained ignorant of the inheritance until that dinner. I was unaware of my grandmother's illness or that the trust fund money was taken. All I was conscious of was how my family continuously humiliated me while demanding payment for the privilege. Although my eyes stung with tears, I forged ahead. My grandmother is bestowing upon me her fortune because she believes in my character, not because I sought it out. I will honor her faith by embodying everything she sees in me, someone who creates, uplifts others, and chooses kindness over cruelty. Soon after, relentless questions bombarded us. Reporters shouted and cameras flashed. But Walter skillfully managed the chaos, and Grandma Dorothy held my hand beneath the table. Just as we were concluding, Sophia burst through the entrance. Security tried to intervene, but she was already yelling. "This is all lies. You've all been brainwashed." Her makeup was a mess, and her designer dress looked wrinkled. She appeared completely frantic. "I'm the true victim. That adopted Fane has robbed me of my inheritance." Cameras swung towards her, capturing every moment of her breakdown. A reporter called out, "Ms. Sophia, what do you say regarding accusations that your parents misappropriated trust fund money meant for Julia? That money was ours. We earned it by raising her ungrateful self," another reporter interjected. Realizing her blunder, it was too late for Sophia. The cameras recorded everything, her admission, her fury, and her lack of any remorse. "Get her out of here," Walter directed security. As they escorted Sophia away, still hurling threats, I noticed reporters furiously typing away on their phones. The narrative had just shifted dramatically. Sophia had unwittingly become the villain they needed, and it wasn't me. Grandma Dorothy squeezed my hand and whispered, "Well, I don't think we could have orchestrated that better if we'd planned it." Despite the chaos, I almost smiled. Sophia had dug her own grave, and the whole world witnessed it. Within mere hours, the footage of her breakdown went viral, hitting over 10 million views by evening. Media outlets played it repeatedly, analyzing every single word and wild expression. Social media erupted with commentary. Did she genuinely just confess they pocketed money for raising an adopted child? This family is toxic. Julia deserves everything. Sophia ruined her own case in less than a minute. That look of realization on her face? Absolutely priceless. Public sentiment flipped overnight. What began as a divided discussion transformed into an overwhelming wave of support for me, condemning my family instead. Memes proliferated, and commentary videos delved deep into the incident. Legal experts weighed in, unanimously agreeing that Sophia's revelation essentially sank any chances of contesting the will. I watched it all unfold from Grandma Dorothy's study, still trying to wrap my head around it all. Walter faced me, clearly pleased. Their legal foundation had just crumbled. Sophia's admission about earning trust fund money by raising you is practically a confession of misappropriation combined with the evidence we already have. They're in a weak position. What comes next? I asked. Now their attorneys will try to manage the fallout, but it's too late for that. The court hearing is in 3 days, and I'd be shocked if the judge didn't rule in our favor immediately. He paused for a moment. There's also the potential for criminal charges. The district attorney has reached out. They're contemplating fraud charges against Patricia and Gregory. Criminal charges? My parents could face prison time. Just then, Grandma Dorothy entered the study, supported by Thomas. She had deteriorated significantly since the press conference, the effort visibly exhausting her. Her gaze remained piercing. "Don't look so anxious," she remarked, easing into her seat. They made their own decisions. Now they must deal with the repercussions. "They are still my parents," I whispered. "Or at least they were meant to be." "They were never your parents," Grandma Dorothy asserted with conviction. True parents shield their children, nurture them, and support them. What Patricia and Gregory did was sheer exploitation, no doubt about it. My phone vibrated. A fresh message chilled me to the bone. "I know where you live now. This isn't finished." I showed it to Walter, who wasted no time in making a call. "I'm filing for a restraining order today and increasing security at the estate," he declared. "She's desperate," Grandma Dorothy noted. "Desperation leads people to commit dangerous acts." She was spot on. In the following days, Sophia's actions spiraled out of control. She appeared at my old apartment complex, yelling at residents. Her social media rants grew longer and more erratic, each one crazier than the last. She accused me of using witchcraft to manipulate Grandma Dorothy and claimed I was part of a conspiracy, asserting she was the true victim of elder abuse. Each post only worsened her situation, as onlookers watched her unravel in real time, any sympathy rapidly fading away. Samuel adopted a different strategy. He appeared on a local news segment, casting himself as the voice of reason. "I think there were mistakes made on both sides," he earnestly told the camera. "Sure, we may not have been as welcoming to Julia as we ought to have been, but completely excluding the whole family over childhood disagreements feels drastic." The interviewer was not convinced. "Mr. Samuel, are you aware that your parents received $750,000 meant for Julia's care, which they allegedly used for your tuition and your sister's?" Samuel's calm demeanor faltered. "That money was for the entire family. Julia benefited too. She wore hand-me-downs while your sister sported designer outfits. She had to take out loans for community college, while you were funded at a private university. How exactly did she benefit?" Samuel abruptly ended the interview, but the damage was done. The audience saw through his facade. My father tried yet another approach, attempting to elicit sympathy. He gave a teary interview, expressing how he'd loved me as a daughter, how this situation was heartbreaking, and how families should mend their bonds. "We made mistakes," Gregory's voice cracked. "What parent hasn't? But to be completely cut off and accused of theft is shattering to us. Patricia can hardly get out of bed. Samuel's marriage is struggling. Sophia is on the brink. All because we were flawed." The same interviewer, who had dismantled Samuel, showed no leniency. "Mr. Gregory, you're referring to your actions as imperfections. However, investigations have revealed years of emotional abuse, financial exploitation, and systematic exclusion of Julia from family events. This transcends imperfections." "That's not abuse, it's just family dynamics," my father countered. "Every family has issues. Not every family steals $750,000 from a child." My father exited the interview angrily. In contrast, my mother took a more strategic approach. Patricia engaged a PR firm and delivered a meticulously prepared interview to a sympathetic reporter. She donned a simple dress with minimal makeup and positioned herself in soft lighting, crying at all the right moments. "I loved Julia from the instant we brought her home," Patricia said, dabbing her eyes. "She was this stunning, fragile girl who had lost everything. I wanted to provide her with a family, a home, and love. Yes, perhaps we were stricter with her than with our biological children. Maybe that was a mistake, but we were trying to prepare her for a tough world. We understood the challenges she faced as an adopted child and wanted her to be resilient." The journalist lapped it up. "And the money? It was allocated for her care, and that's what we used it for: housing, food, utilities. Raising a child is costly. Maybe we should have documented every expense, but we were a family, not a business." She looked straight at the camera. "Julia, if you're watching, just know that I love you. I always have. Can we please talk without lawyers or media, just as mother and daughter?" I watched the interview with Grandma Dorothy and Walter. When it concluded, nausea washed over me. "She's talented," Walter admitted. "This is the most sympathetic they've appeared throughout this ordeal." "She's lying," I replied bluntly. "She never loved me. This is just another form of manipulation." "I know," Grandma Dorothy said. "But some will believe her. The real question is, do you care?" Did I? I wondered. A week ago, I might have cared profoundly, wanting everyone to realize the truth and see Patricia for who she genuinely was. But now, I said, I don't care what strangers think. Those who matter know the truth. Grandma Dorothy beamed. "That's my girl." The day of the court hearing dawned on a gloomy Seattle morning. The courthouse buzzed with media, and protesters waved signs both in support and against me, while onlookers awaited a glimpse of the unfolding drama. Walter had arranged a private entrance for us, yet the chaos outside was still audible. Grandma Dorothy appeared fragile in her wheelchair. While we had finally persuaded her to use it, her posture remained remarkably upright. Gripping her hand, we stepped into the courtroom where my family was already gathered. Patricia, Gregory, Samuel, and Sophia occupied the defendants' table alongside their legal team. Patricia retained the gentle, sympathetic look from her interview, while Gregory seemed exhausted and beaten down. Samuel avoided making eye contact, but Sophia shot daggers at me with her contempt. The judge, a formidable woman in her 60s named Judge Morrison, entered and everyone rose to attention. This hearing addresses the will of Dorothy Hayes and the contest initiated by Patricia Hayes and her family, Judge Morrison announced. I've examined the documents provided by both sides. Counsel, you may begin with your opening statements. The family's attorney kicked things off, a slick character named Robert, who insisted that Grandma Dorothy was swayed unfairly. He claimed her illness compromised her decisions, pushing for the original will to be reinstated. Then it was Walter's turn. He didn't argue emotionally but laid out clear facts, bank statements revealing the embezzled trust funds, medical records from 3 doctors affirming Grandma Dorothy's mental clarity, and testimonies from business partners underscoring her sharp mind. He presented evidence of the abuse I endured, photos, recordings, and witness accounts. He even showcased Sophia's viral confession. Your Honor, Walter concluded, this isn't about undue influence, it's about a woman making a rightful choice for her estate, while a family resents the fact that their control has finally been broken. Patricia's lawyer attempted to refute this point, but Judge Morrison halted him. I've seen enough, she stated. The evidence is compelling. Miss Dorothy Hayes was undoubtedly of sound mind when she drafted her new will. The documentation of abuse is both substantial and credible. Sophia Hayes' own admission to profiting from funds meant for Julia's care essentially corroborates the exploitation claims. My heart raced. Moreover, Judge Morrison added, the conduct displayed by the disputing parties during these proceedings, including threats and public smear campaigns, only strengthens the argument that Miss Dorothy's decision was the right one. A family that genuinely cared for Julia wouldn't have behaved in this manner, either before or after the will's alteration. At this, Sophia erupted, unable to restrain herself. You need to sit down, Judge Morrison commanded. Failure to comply will result in contempt of court. Sophia complied, but her fury crackled in the air. I am ruling in favor of the executed will, Judge Morrison proclaimed. The contest is dismissed with prejudice. Furthermore, I am mandating Patricia and Gregory Hayes to repay the mismanaged trust funds, amounting to $750,000 plus interest over 22 years, totaling roughly $2.3 million. They have 90 days to settle the full amount. Chaos erupted in the courtroom. Patricia sank into her chair, sobbing. Gregory seemed to age decades in mere moments. Samuel buried his face in his hands, while Sophia unleashed a string of curse words until bailiffs escorted her away. I remained motionless, unable to grasp the reality that it was finally over. We had triumphed, emphatically and irrevocably. Grandma Dorothy tightened her grip on my hand. It's finished, sweetheart. You're free. As we exited the courthouse, media swarmed around us, but Walter and Thomas formed a protective shield. I could hear reporters shouting questions. How did I feel? What would I do with the money? Did I have a message for my family? I didn't respond. Instead, I assisted Grandma Dorothy into the car and allowed Thomas to drive us home. Once back at the estate, Grandma Dorothy, though tired, seemed content. I can die happy now, she said, and her words hit me like a physical blow. Please don't say that, I whispered urgently. Oh, Julia, she said gently, cradling my face in her frail hands. I'm not scared. I witnessed justice being served. I know my fortune will be used for good. That's more than what many receive. In the next 3 weeks, I watched Grandma Dorothy slowly decline. She drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes aware, at other times lost in thought. I stayed close, holding her hand and sharing my aspirations for a foundation dedicated to assisting abused or exploited adopted children. "That's wonderful," she murmured during one of her lucid moments. "Help others like you break the cycle." "I will," I vowed. "I'll make you proud." "You already have," she replied, a serene smile lighting her face. "You persevered through them, Julia. You remained kind when they were unkind. You put in the effort even when they sought to shatter you. You embody everything I hoped you would be." She passed away on a Tuesday morning while I held her hand, the sunlight pouring in from the window. Her final words were, "Thank you for being my true family." I lingered for quite a while afterward, sobbing for the woman who had rescued me, loved me, and provided me with a bright future, the only real grandmother I'd ever known. The funeral was intimate, attended solely by me, Thomas, Walter, and a handful of Grandma Dorothy's dear friends. My family hadn't been invited, although Patricia attempted to crash it and was stopped at the door by security. In the following weeks, the complete transfer of assets took place. I became the sole heir to a staggering $3 billion fortune. Although that amount felt unfathomable, I was resolute in honoring Grandma Dorothy's legacy. The very first step I took was to establish the Dorothy Hayes Foundation for Adopted Children. This wasn't just for the sake of appearances or to appear charitable. I understood all too well the number of kids who were trapped in dire situations like my own. The foundation would offer legal aid, counseling, emergency housing, and educational support to adopted children facing abuse or exploitation. Next on my list was to recruit an exceptional management team for Grandma Dorothy's businesses. I wasn't prepared to run billion-dollar companies yet, but I was keen to learn. I attended every meeting, excitedly posed questions, and studied diligently at night. Gradually, I began to grasp the vast empire she had established. My family's downfall was swift and harsh. Unable to settle the $2.3 million in restitution, Patricia and Gregory had to sell their house, cars, and all valuables, eventually moving into a cramped apartment in a tough neighborhood. It's ironic, given how they always looked down on those they deemed inferior. Gregory faced fraud charges for stealing from the trust fund and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Patricia received a 2-year term. Samuel, who had benefited from the ill-gotten gains for his education, was ordered to repay his share, about $400,000. His marriage crumbled under the financial pressure, and last I heard, he was juggling 2 jobs to manage his payments. But the fate that brought me the most satisfaction was Sophia's. Her public meltdown had obliterated any credibility she once had. Her husband divorced her, claiming their house and a large part of their assets. She had heavily invested in a restaurant venture that bombed spectacularly, leaving her drowning in debt. The private investigator she hired to dig up dirt on me was now suing her for unpaid fees. She attempted to pen a tell-all book, but publishers rejected it after fact-checkers found it riddled with falsehoods. She even tried to launch a YouTube channel, but the comments were so harsh it led her to delete it. Desperately, she tried to reach out to me, not out of sincere regret, but in a bid for financial support. I glanced at her email. "Julia, I know we've had our disagreements, but we're still sisters. Family forgives each other. I'm struggling right now, and I know you're doing well. Perhaps we could meet for coffee, chat about the past, and build a future together." I deleted it without a word. 6 months after Grandma Dorothy's passing, I found myself in the Foundation's newly opened headquarters, a stunning building in downtown Seattle committed to helping children like I once was. The walls were adorned with photos of kids we had already assisted, showcasing stories of escape and new beginnings. Thomas stood next to me, having taken on the role of operations director at the Foundation. "Miss Dorothy would be proud," he said. "I hope so," I replied. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with another message from my family. They persisted in trying to reconnect. This time, it was Samuel. "Julia, Mom and Dad are struggling. Dad's in prison, and Mom's barely surviving. I know you're upset, but they're still your parents. Can't you find it in your heart to help?" I composed my reply thoughtfully. They were never my true parents. They were merely people who took money to raise me and instead used me as an outlet for their own frustrations. I owed them nothing. However, here's my proposition. I'll donate the exact sum they stole from me, $750,000, to a fund aiding adopted children in escaping abusive families in their names. That will be their only legacy. I hit send and promptly blocked his number. A year later, I appeared in a business magazine, not merely as the adopted girl who inherited billions, but as a CEO successfully managing multiple thriving companies and an expanding foundation that had helped over 500 children. The article focused on my endeavors, my vision, and my achievements. There was a brief mention of my family troubles, but that was in the past. The narrative had transformed. I was no longer the victim, the gold digger, or the manipulator. I was simply Julia, a woman who had survived, thrived, and chosen to support others on their journey. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned that Sophia was now working in telemarketing, just scraping by. Patricia, freshly released from prison, was living in a women's shelter. Gregory remained incarcerated, with his health deteriorating. Samuel found himself bankrupt, his lavish education rendered useless, having lost the connections and financial support that used to uphold him. A part of me, the part that recalls the pain of being a vulnerable little girl, felt a flicker of emotion. It wasn't quite satisfaction or pity, but rather a realization that actions bear consequences and that cruelty often comes back around. My family never bounced back from their downfall. Sophia constantly struggled to rebuild her life, with every attempt collapsing under the burden of her tarnished reputation and misguided choices. Patricia and Gregory spent their last years in destitution and loneliness, with their biological children too caught up in their own battles to lend a hand. Samuel's arrogance prevented him from taking jobs he considered beneath him, perpetually teetering on the brink of financial disaster. They constructed their lives upon a shaky foundation of entitlement and cruelty, and when that foundation gave way, they had nothing solid to rely on. In contrast, I forged something enduring from the ruins of that painful experience. Every child saved, every life transformed, every cycle of abuse shattered became my real legacy from Grandma Dorothy. It wasn't the money, but the realization that true revenge isn't about destruction, it's about becoming the person they doubted you could ever be. And while I was busy creating something wonderful, I witnessed them self-destruct. That, in essence, was justice running its rightful course.